What up, people? Happy Sunday. It's another Black Ball Project Sunday. And today we are talking about I Have a Dream. 58 years ago, Dr. King did the I Have a Dream speech during the March on Washington, August 28th, 1963. So we thought it'd be fitting, since that was yesterday, 58 years ago, that we talk about that dream and ask the question, has it truly manifested itself in any shape, form, or fashion since those last 58 years have been upon us? But before we do that, we always got to say what's up to the team and get our check-in going. Courtney, Corey, Jimmy, how y'all doing today?
Chilling.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, y'all sound like blah. Where's the energy at?
I mean, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? Life is good. Like, as long as you're breathing and smiling, life is good.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, so here's a oldie but goodie. I haven't asked this question in a while. Have we been working out? That tells everything. That tells it all.
I walking my ass from my car to wherever the hell I'm going. That's as much workout as I'm getting in this hot ass sun.
All right, well, health is wealth. I'm trying to get there, but I've been falling off too. So we all gotta live. We all gotta be better.
Stop asking questions you know the answer to, Kamari.
I don't know the answer to that.
Stop being a bully.
Listen, Courtney got a whole Peloton studio in her crib. So I'm guessing she's
you way under the bus. He was like, everybody under the bus. Me throw her way under the bus.
I know, right? I was like, yeah, no. So, no, full and fair disclosure, there are 2 Pelotons in my home. There's one in the basement, and there's one in my office. One is getting used. The other one is not. The one in the basement is getting used by my husband. The one in my office is not.
Shout out to Ty.
All right, well, that's honest. That's honest. Listen, I ain't the best at it either, y'all. So, but listen, it's important for us to get.
Yo, man, hold on real quick though. For the folks watching, man, y'all gotta hold us accountable, man. Check in the middle of the week and tell us to get our ass moving.
Right. How about that?
Yeah,
in the group?
please.
Yep. How about that in the group?
Need some words of encouragement, man.
That always works. So
Tracy's here.
Tracy's here.
Tracy's here.
What car she got this week?
Quick. Oh.
Hold up. I thought you was in like Machu Picchu somewhere.
I leave on Tuesday.
Oh, you leave Tuesday. Okay.
Hey, Tracy.
Wait, you definitely have a new car, Tracy. Like, what is going on over there? This is
Not like the same car from last week. She switched.
It was the same car from last week. Yeah, I'm still test driving. I haven't decided yet. This is the problem when you have all kinds of choices. But I'm gonna get it together.
Well, that's a
hold on. That might be the move. Just test drive all year. That might be the move.
just test driving cars. I can't. This is too much.
So Tracy, how you doing? I asked the team the question: have you been working out? So we don't want to leave you out. Have you been working out? Drinking that good water?
Not probably. Well, definitely always drinking water. I'm always drinking water, so that's fine. But not working out in a traditional sense. Like I'm moving around. I'm up and down steps. I'm in basements. Like on a quite frequent basis. So I'm moving.
All right, you're getting your steps in. But before we get into it today, again, tonight's question: has Dr. Martin Luther King's dream come true? Again, 1963, he did I Have a Dream speech. So the question is, has that dream come through? Did it come through a little bit, a lot of it, none of it? Tell us what you think. Go ahead and chime in the chat.
Yo, come on, we need to set up a Black Wealth Project like step challenge, like get one of those everybody get the same little app or whatever. So you
listen, I'll get on TikTok for that.
I don't know about TikTok, but I'm just saying, like that way we hold each other accountable. Like,
TikTok? What does TikTok have to do with the steps?
I mean, Courtney already dancing on TikTok, so I mean,
you know what I mean. If we gonna hold each other accountable, we got
I'm just talking about that way you can everybody can track the steps. It could be everybody who's watching too. It could be the whole community, like to motivate each other. But everybody has to get the same device. Like they got the Fitbit, which has it, and then the Nike got one too. I think something like that.
Yeah, Nike.
Well, Apple has one, and Nike doesn't do steps, but you can track stuff. Maybe we can do something on Strava. I think Strava might be the best one to do it on.
I'm about to say, man, because I don't even use my app, nothing. So I need.
I'm not familiar with Strava. I'm not. Somebody watching those. Somebody watching. Is in one of those step challenges or something, man. Just trying to get something to help everybody out. I'm talking about myself, and I say everybody, by the way.
I just think we should put in our like a little half an hour workout, whatever that is, whether you walk, run, leap, whatever. Get your half an hour in.
Yeah, but see, when you make it competitive about like it's taking steps or something, that pushes people.
I'm not going nowhere though.
You don't have to. If you're on your bike and you're moving your feet, it's going to count it as well.
Are you sure it counts on the feeties?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to get back to you, but I want to do that after my 40th. My 40th is on Friday.
So you must let us know right now. You about to? Okay, I got you.
Right.
My trip was canceled, so I'm just going to be here.
Oh, why your trip got canceled?
Hawaii. The governor said, "Don't y'all come here though."
Well, I saw the mayor was telling everybody not to come in Maui.
Yeah, Maui. Yeah, so we were scheduled to go to Maui, and they were like, "Don't y'all come here." And they were starting to close beaches and stuff. So and that was last week. And I was like, I only can imagine what we're going to be doing 2 weeks from now if it doesn't get better. So I'll be super annoyed that I flew 10 hours to just be sitting looking out at a beach, not at the beach, but looking out at the beach. No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get too far off track, let's watch this real quick clip to set the tone.
The Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today The Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties, so that's not going to work. All right, where did Tracy go? Okay, well, Tracy's gone. I'm sure she'll be back again.
She's popped up. She'll be around.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I was trying to show the clip. I don't know what happened. Oh, there she is. Oh, okay, there she is. Listen, I was about to slander you, Tracy. You came back just in time.
I'm here. What do you mean?
You here. I know. So I don't know what happened to the clip. I was trying to play it, but it didn't work. So anyway, everybody probably knows the clip where they talk about everybody going to the government or going to Washington, D.C., how the government, after the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a crock, but just in the spirit of the speech, hasn't fulfilled their obligation to the quote-unquote Negro. And America owes, Courtney, you probably know this better than me, but America has written a check of insufficiency to the Black community.
So here's the quote.
All right, lawyer, come on.
So it says, "It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds."
So,
but it also goes on, but we have this one little more line.
Oh,
it says, "But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt."
So, all right, let's get it started. What do y'all think? Has Dr. King's dream ever come to fruition? Who wants to go first?
What was his dream?
About having little boys and little girls, black and white, holding hands, being judged by the content of the character, not the color of the skin. Everybody's quiet. Wow.
Not everybody at once.
He had multiple dreams. I mean, like, there's multiple stanzas of his dream. Like, it's not just that. I mean, he really has what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he has 5 paragraphs of a dream.
5 paragraphs.
I'm gonna tell you this.
All different dreams. I know Biggie's dream came true.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm gonna tell you.
What was
this,
Biggie's dream? Never mind.
I'll
leave that one alone.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Corey's saying something. Go ahead, Corey.
As much as the good doctor has done, right? And that dream was it was a time and place kind of thing, right? So that's where they were in the movement. And so his dream kind of was it had a time frame, time limit, right? In that time frame and time limit, that's what they were dreaming about, right? And so what we look at when we look at that speech, we need to look at evolution, like and talk about, you know, what that dream that he had at that time period should look like for us in 2021.
Okay. So I would say, though, the dream overall, in a very broad general state, was for Black folks to be able to be afforded the same rights, likes, and privileges as everyone else in this country. Will anybody disagree?
No, I don't disagree with that. I disagree. Oh, well, yeah. My thing is he didn't have the backdrop that we do now, knowing that that's never going to happen.
Right. And I mean, to Corey's point, right, it's easy for us to sit up here and talk about it and analyze it and not actually be in it. And it's, you know, totally different. And we could see between Malcolm and Martin and how they had different approaches and thoughts about it, that not everybody had the same thought. Even the Black church, a lot of people think everybody loved King in the Black church, and that was very, very far from the truth.
Falsehoods.
All falsehoods. But, you know, I'll say this. I don't think the dream ever really came true. But I will say this. We wouldn't be here right now had it not been for Dr. King's work. We wouldn't be able to do this broadcast. Tracy wouldn't be able to get charcuterie boards and be fly in all kinds of non-Black establishments. Right? We wouldn't be able to do it. Tracy, I'm just having fun. Don't kill me.
Tracy about to punch you in the face.
Yeah, she about to come through it.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't like DeBarge? Was it DeBarge? She's like a dream, a simple fantasy. So it was this is definitely a fantasy. Like what is in this document? It's very much a fantasy. It's not a real thing. I mean, you can see that he said, I have a dream that one day. He ain't say someday. He didn't say tomorrow. He said one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of justice and freedom. Mississippi still 58 years later, still got problems. So yeah. it was very much a fantasy. And I wouldn't say that, you know, and the thing is that I felt like I had to read it again just so I was very clear on, he was still talking about police brutality. 58 years later, here we are still dealing with police brutality. Like
well, that's because we know why it's happening, right? So at that point, they didn't care why it was happening. They just wanted it to stop, right? And I'm sort of at the same spot. But the thing about it is that we know because we had an internet and we can all connect. We know because the world is a smaller place that this is happening everywhere to everybody. And so it's you know, we know the fix is in. You know what I mean? Like technology has given us a lot of things that Dr. King didn't have access to.
Facts.
And so, you know, that's why I'm not pooping on the speech per se, because put into context, it looks a lot different in the 1960s than it does now.
I mean, listen, they were still lynching folks like publicly in the 60s. We still have lynchings now.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was an excellent speech, and his oratory skills are second to none. But what I will say is that your question about whether it's come true, no, it can't come true. I mean, the Honorable Isabel Wilkerson has told us why it can't come true. So it's very aspirational, which is probably what makes it a good speech outside of his ability to communicate. but it can happen. Now we know why it can't happen. Now we know why it can't happen. So we need to focus on power.
So you don't think King was focused on power?
No, he wanted equity and equality.
Yeah.
He wasn't focused on power.
He changed, and this is part of the reason why, to me, it has such a messy feel. He changed his
I was like, which king are we talking about? We talking about the king that realized that his turn the other cheek and his nonviolent stance was not working, and it didn't get them economic equality that he was looking for, and then said, basically, let us fight on the ice? Which king are we talking about?
Listen, man, Honorable Malik Hbcus says, man, it's time to stop singing and start swinging. And that's the problem. Like, we can be aspirational and be singing, but you gotta, approach this a different way. And to your point, though, there was a different Dr. King after that. The whole quote about leading his people into a burning building.
Yep. But this has the social appeal. It makes everybody feel good. He had a dream, and oh my goodness! But I mean, he was still spitting fire in this.
But you got to give him credit though. He was bodying that speech though. Like
he was still spitting. Yeah. He was still spitting fire.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I watched it in preparation for this, and I start feeling like, I talk to them, kid. Like, you know what I mean? I start, so his ability to communicate is amazing. Like, he was good at what he did.
Can we talk about how Aretha Franklin encouraged him to tell? Because if we don't talk about it, but in the conversation, she was like, "Tell him about your dream, Martin. Tell him about." Was it Mahalia? Was it Mahalia?
Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson.
So my point is that I think it's also interesting how the Black woman played a very integral role in the conversation about the dream.
All right. Well, I want you to just hold that point. Great point. But let's check in with our folks real quick before we get too far off, because we could actually. I mean, this is how it kind of started, right? It was really just conversations amongst ourselves, and we said, well, let's include everybody in these. Don Johnson, how are you?
Don, what up, King?
Hey, Don.
Latoya's in the building. Hey, Latoya.
Hey, Toya.
Hey, Jose. No King's dream did not come true.
Jose. That's published author, Jose, man.
That's right. Jose, thanks for the share. I just saw you share the live stream. Thank you. Tony says Peloton is dropping prices. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Tracy living her best life. Yeah. Jose, see
it every day, as she's supposed to.
Hey, Jose. I'm waiting on my book. I haven't gotten it yet.
Hey, Monica. How you doing?
Hey,
Monica.
Say Renee's in the building.
Hey. I have to remind everyone, I'm still a member. I'm still the president of the Monica Williams fan club. Just so everyone
Hey, Canby, how you doing?
Hey, Cam, what's going on?
Adrian's in the building. How you doing? Jose says, I'm certain we can all recall that speech. Sadly, success have used this speech to make it seem like we should have made progress.
Well, they definitely use it like that. They use it to say, like, we have made progress. Like, we have. See, look, things aren't as bad as they were. We're not segregated anymore. And it's like, well, we have redlining, though.
We had crack cocaine. We had heroin. We have gun laws. Somebody cue Sister Soldier. We are at war. But I don't think a lot of us really get it. So Monica says, a few years after the speech, didn't he give the speech where he seems defeated and he says he's integrated people into a burning house? Yes. Mm-hmm. I think, wasn't that the poor person's march?
Yes. Kamar, can you take it off of me though? Please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, it's hard doing all this stuff, y'all. Thanks for calling me out, Courtney. Appreciate it. All right, Monica says, his dream didn't account for the evil nature of people when they felt like they're losing hold of the position they have had since the birth of this nation. Yeah. Latoya says, I'm curious where he gathered that hope because it's on another level. Well, It's well documented that he was a big Mahatma Gandhi fan. Ironically, I don't think a lot of people knew he was racist, but that's another conversation for another day. But I think he looked at Gandhi, at Christ, at the caste system in India, and I guess he figured that there's a strong possibility. Listen, in order to make anything happen that's a drastic change, you got to be a little bit delusional, at least by traditional standards, right? I mean, by everyday standards, you got to.
No, it's a great point. It's a great point. You're not wrong.
You know,
it's just funny to hear it communicated that way. But you're right.
I mean, yeah, but sometimes we need that delusion. We need to go super far to the left in order to get something done. Listen, Lil Wayne told everybody he was the greatest rapper for a long time, and everybody said, "No, that's not true." And then one day, after all those mixtapes, they said maybe. Maybe it's a possibility.
Hey, listen, man, that's called practicing the secret, man. You speak things into existence.
Manifestation.
That's
absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
He was about that faith with works, yes. But he was fighting a moral and ethical war with the enemy who lacks moral and ethics.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Dwight, how are you, sir?
What's going on, Dwight?
Dwight, what's up, good brother?
Dr. King, the good doctor at the time of killing, was not liked by the majority of Americans. Facts. He shook the tree and many didn't want any trouble.
Hey, Dwight, you should have forced me to get the phone earlier, bro. Now that I got it, I'm like, I can't use a regular device no more, Dwight. I blame you for that. But go ahead, though.
Latoya says, Jose, I know in real life that was a bit of a sarcasm. Gotcha. All right. Willard, what's up, Willard? Dr. Willard's in the building. Unfortunately, Dr. King's dream has not come full circle. The promissory note is still unpaid. Now an uncollectible judgment. America is still asleep.
Uncollected. I think that's important. It's uncollected.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said uncollectible.
Okay. Now an uncollected judgment. Thank you, Courtney. America is still asleep, and Black America across the board is still experiencing a nightmare.
So Corey also actually caught you too.
Whoa, easy, young Jeezy. I don't want no smoke.
No, but I think it's really important is that, it's an uncollected judgment. Like you can, and this is the reason why I said it's really important to get this language right.
Because it is collectible, but it's uncollectible.
You can collect it. You can execute on that judgment. Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Not only is Courtney a law genius, she's also an English genius as well. So thank you, Courtney.
No. Well, that was actually law. I mean, when you have a judgment, like you have to execute. Like if somebody owes you money, you get a judgment and they don't pay up. Solid. Let me hold my beer. Let me go execute and go and call the sheriff to come get your stuff.
Courtney, I would love to see you tell somebody hold your beer and then get action. Get busy.
Oh, I have. Go to the 5th floor of the MSP building in the city of Philadelphia and ask about me.
Oh, whoa.
Better ask about me.
Hey, Angela, how you doing? See, Angela, she said everyone, too.
Hi, Angela.
What's going on, Angela?
Hey.
All right, Adrian says his own daughter, Bernice King, even mentioned a few times how her father's words have been twisted and used by whites against blacks who say we still have issues. We need to separate. I'll be honest, just going back to this, I don't know that separation really helps us any. Just for the record.
I'm gonna stay quiet.
I want to hear what you got. What you got?
Oh, I don't want to mess up any political connects. But no, all I'm gonna say is that sometimes you got to be radical and go far left to try to get some things done. That's all I'm gonna say. A wise man once told me sometimes you got to go far left and be radical.
I agree with that.
That might, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Jose says King believed he had true allies. We really only had sympathizers, but when challenged, those supposed allies chose whiteness above
every single time.
Exactly.
Honorable Isabel Wilkerson teaches us that.
Absolutely. So important. Like I love it.
Yeah, I was talking about with the hands though. So she talking verbal assassination, but that's cool.
Hey, that's even more dangerous than the hands.
Yes, right? It is. Courtney coming with the smoke. Listen, Courtney always coming with the smoke, y'all. And y'all get the tame Courtney. This ain't the real Courtney.
Oh.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? You said it on air. You don't let the intellectual hands fly like you would any other time.
Because I'm in public.
So
that's still real. Like being tame and that implies that I'm fake. No, it's just that you don't get like all of it. So it's
right,
I'm in public.
I want to ask y'all a question because y'all all family. Would y'all really like to see the untamed, non-public version of Courtney? Put a yes in the chat.
See, I like the way my sister is shaking her head saying no. See, because that's the right answer.
Listen, we can do a public forum.
No.
Because they don't get the full weight, breadth, and depth of the mind of Courtney. So
you need to.
All right. Latoya says we are already separated. That's a fact. We've never conquered segregation.
Yeah, but it's a difference. Right? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Philly exemplifies that. The issue is that we're not taking ownership or using the separation to our own advantage like the ancestors used to. Go ahead, Jimmy.
All right, what I was gonna say is like, we're not really separated. We're segregated, but it's like we don't have any power, right? So when you talk about full separation that some of our ancestors did, they talked about having our own government, our own everything, like not just being segregated and put in one side while they're on the other side, and they still have all the power. They still have ownership of all the assets. So we're not really separated.
It's the difference between assimilation and people be talking about we integrate.
You could take the camera off of me too, Kamari. I had to do it. I just had to do that. I had to do that. Like
Yeah, I know.
So what Jim is talking about is the difference between integration and assimilation. What we have right now is assimilation because none of the power is being shared. Because there's no such thing as integration if the power is not shared. So what we have right now, we've never been integrated. Integration is a fallacy. It's assimilation. We're all being assimilated into the system.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I always say we didn't have integration. We had desegregation. But I think I like your term better, Corey. We have assimilation. All right, Dwight says no to the Courtney question. Jose, however, says yes. So
yeah, no.
Yes, Adrian, we are definitely all multifaceted.
Exactly.
Adrian wanted to give you the easy out. All right, Jose says that's because we're still looking for a seat at the table. That's a fact. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We need to build our own tables.
A lot of people actually want to take seats from other people and unseat them and then sit in their seat.
Man.
Yeah, I think it was Jimmy. I think it was Jimmy who said a couple weeks ago, many of us don't want change. I think you said, Jimmy, we just want closer proximity to whiteness.
So we can be the oppressor.
Right. Yeah. So we can be thank you, Corey. So we can be the oppressor.
Yep.
Something else I realized through the years is that also we don't want the responsibility of having to take care of our own.
Man.
And I think that's another conversation we have. Like, if we're talking about if we were talking about true separation, like the responsibility it takes of leadership. A lot of people don't want to take on the responsibility of leadership. Because historically, what happens to our leaders anyway?
Yeah, get out of here. All right, Monica says, I don't want to see Untamed Courtney because the folks will use that one moment to poop on the stuff that Tame Courtney does. All right, facts. By the way, my non-public thing would be non-public. It would not be televised. It would not be live. It would have to be in a private location.
I mean, I will say Untamed Courtney does have a very keen way of getting to the facts in a very, very curt and precise way. So, she won't mince words and you'll absolutely understand without a shadow of a doubt what she means.
So we need to get Courtney a burner account, like a fake IG account, where she can just let her hands go.
Courtney on burner Twitter. She on burner Twitter.
Burner Twitter. With the bio outside.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Like, and what she normally says, she just says it with just a little bit more oomph.
A couple more 4-letter words.
A little bit.
Couple more.
Now, low key, y'all, Tracy's the same way. So I'm just saying.
Oh, man, listen.
She get busy too.
I know not.
I know my back is watched. They
be right.
Facts all day.
To Latoya's point, though, we don't actually need like individual leaders like that. We need decentralized leadership.
Yeah.
Read the comment, Jimmy. Read the comment.
You know, huh?
Read the comment.
Oh, okay. It says, who do we trust to lead us? We don't even like each other. Yeah. And it's truth in that, though. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? But we need decentralized leadership, you know.
Well, we don't have to like the people that lead. Like, I think that's something we've gotten confused.
Oh, man. Ooh, preach from the church of glory.
No, these are facts. I mean, Kobe and Shaq won championships and hated each other. So the fact of the matter is, you definitely don't have to like someone. And I think that we get that confused. But in 2021, we get that confused all the time. Like we don't have to agree on everything, and we don't have to like each other. As long as we're fighting for the same goal, it should be about the mission, and we have to stop taking things so personal.
People aren't mission focused. See, the one thing I learned from working and being owned by the government is that the government is mission focused. They don't give a damn about anything that does not that if it interferes with the mission, it has to go. And you can talk all the trash in the world, but the government is the most focused entity, and our government is one of the most focused entities in the world. If it's in the way, it has to go.
So are you saying no man left behind is a fallacy?
It is definitely a fallacy. They will leave your ass wherever you stand if it's in the way of the mission.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I guess to Corey's point, you're saying that some people need to be left behind.
All I'm saying is you have to focus on the mission, and whoever's not about the mission, you got to leave them wherever they stand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do nothing to them. You just leave them wherever they at.
They just shouldn't be.
Yeah, we move too much on emotion.
They'll catch up. They'll catch up.
People wave riders. They'll get on.
They'll at some point they'll get on. And that's the same thing with the internet. There wasn't a whole bunch of people on the internet initially. And now you can't separate people from their phones, in the internet. So they'll get on at some point. And I think we just can't wait for everybody to agree with you or believe in the mission like you do. You'll be sitting here waiting forever, getting gray hairs, getting giveaways and all of it. No.
Same with Bitcoin. I'm sorry. I got my one reference. We're gonna come on here one day and Kamari's gonna be like, I told so once Kamari does the 180, that's when I know, we out of here.
What 180? 180 for what?
You're the Black Wealth Project Bitcoin hater.
I am not a Bitcoin hater. Please stop spreading the lie. Matter of fact, I think Jose was on my live the other day. By the way, shout out to Jose. Shout out to the White for helping me with my appliance fund the other day. Appreciate y'all. But I even said the other day, you can buy crypto. Right? I don't have a problem.
You're going to force me to dig up the old videos where you were crypto bastard. They're out there.
No, I haven't. You can pull them up and we can go through
this is the great thing about internet, where we are now. Everything is documented.
Yeah, so Jimmy sneaks in Bitcoin like Courtney talks about taxes all the time.
Oh, man. All right, I accept that. I accept
it. Out of it.
But it's funny, like he somehow threw a double shot in there. He was like, I'm gonna take a shot of him. Let me sneak Courtney while I'm
espresso. Yeah, let me got a double shot of espresso in there.
Listen, I'm trying to defame all the madness about myself. That's all.
Whatever. You have been a Bitcoin cryptocurrency hater. You might have slightly you have slightly gotten on
it went from hate to dislike. He took it down a level.
No, he actually changed his whole talking point, and now he went to it's an instrument. There's nothing bad instrument.
Let's be clear. I've always said I'm more interested in blockchain than Bitcoin. That's number one. Still hold that stance, right? Number two, I tell people who don't have adequate savings not to throw all your savings into Bitcoin or any crypto. Still the same. If you want to buy crypto, and I've seen Corey say very much the same thing. Buy $25 at a time.
Dude,
No,
I watched the dude take his whole life savings
for savings
in 2017, take his whole life savings and buy crypto, and he worth like $7 billion.
Yeah, so, and I've seen a bunch of other people throw their whole savings in 2017 when Bitcoin hit 20,000. They needed the money when it was at around 4, and they cashed out. So people need
that's the problem. That's the problem right there, though. There's no point.
Right, they couldn't afford it. So people need proper financial management in order to really get.
And I'm not trying to turn this into a Bitcoin show, but I am saying that there's only a couple of days that you could have bought at this point and not be up.
Sure. In the history
now. And by the way, Kamari, if they needed the money, they could have just took money from that money and still had the Bitcoin and not have cashed out, which means that right now they probably be doing a lot better, especially if they bought at 20.
So here's the thing. Jimmy and I were talking about this the other day. It's about being financially well-rounded.
Yes.
Or educated and having a resource, mentor, and other people to be able to help you, guide you through your Bitcoin journey. And
all of that.
Yeah, it's all of it. It's about the education. It's about doing it. Because a lot of people talk about it and they don't do it. So there's that too. So, but it's also about having the education to make, to have the decisions and having the resources that you don't have to pull out of the bottom of the market because you need the money, because you didn't have adequate savings or whatever the case may be. It's also about having good credit. So when you have to take advantage of opportunities, you can. But also, it's also having, some cryptocurrency so you can also borrow off of it if you need to. So it's creating your own bank. So again, there's so many different things that can happen that requires us to be financially well-rounded. But I think a lot of times we focus on one thing and we don't handle the other things. We focus on wealth creation and not wealth retention or wealth transfer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, most of us haven't gotten to wealth accumulation in the first place. So I mean, it's a hard conversation, especially.
But I've realized that, Kamari, a lot of us have. Go ahead.
But especially when all we see and listen, here's the personal responsibility talk. But we see these ads and we're hooked on these ads, or we see these celebrities and we get hooked on these celebrities, and we don't do what's in our best interest, our own personal best interest. Because, and I won't say any big names, but the big names who got all the followings are doing it, so now they want to do it, and so it gets hard.
But listen, here's the one thing that's never going anywhere, right?
It's not.
Me and Corey were doing some community work a couple weekends ago. And one of the things we started talking about with the folks there is that because I was making a comment about how you're marketed to since the day you're born, you're consistently marketed to, and Corey was like, actually, you're marketed to before you're even born, right? And when you start to think about that,
it's a perfect example.
All right, so consumerism is something that's never going away, right? But it's about that balance, because people will consistently be marketed to. Those messages will always be out there. You'll always have influencers that are trying to do things that are, that people look to, right? It's a fact. I mean, this is what it is. But we have to combat that. And to Courtney's point, it's about like that well-roundedness. So you have to have the conversations that aren't sexy, but there has to be like a pushback against people who are just doing the salacious things. So it's pretty much about everything's about balance.
We need to bring fried chicken to the cookout so we can, when we teach. That's all, and some watermelon. Right? We need to turn it to a party. Hey, listen, put how your mom used to put the medicine inside the sweet tea or something like that. You know what I mean? You got to get the medicine. So they put it inside the orange or the sweet tea. Like my grandmother used to pinch my nose and put castor oil on my tongue and then squeeze an orange or a lemon into my mouth after she made me swallow it. So, you know what I mean? And that was just to clean the insides, you know what I mean? I was never sick a day in my life because my grandmother did all of that kind of stuff. But you gotta make it palatable for people, basically, so that they can get there.
Okay, so basically we need to have red and blue Lambos.
Palatable.
We need to rent jets, and we need to do like a palatial
palatable
total spread.
I'm always here for that, though. I'm always here for that.
I mean, listen, if y'all want to drop the top on some stuff, we can do that, but that's dumb. We don't gotta do all that.
Listen,
right. I'm just checking.
A spoonful of sugar will help the medicine go down. And you don't need to have a whole bag.
But hold on, time out. Let me talk about this whole medicine idea. Because y'all, I had asthma medicine. And I had to be getting an asthma medicine. There was these little white round balls. And my mom gave it to me on grape jelly. I don't mess with grape jelly anymore.
Hey,
at all.
You're traumatized.
I guarantee you took that medicine though.
I did, but I don't mess with it no more. So I mean, I'm just saying,
there's trauma there, but you made it to be traumatized.
Get some therapy, work through it, but you still have to take the medicine.
But I mean, to your point, right? Dr. King, bringing back to Dr. King, his flowery words, his inspirational words, that was kind of like the sugar, right? They got a lot of us moving forward on a lot of things.
So, and it was work behind it. And there definitely was work behind it. And that's what it is. Right. It's like, you can't have faith. What's the thing? Faith without works is dead, right? So, amen. So he actually was putting the work in. So, that's another thing that's admirable, right? So when you start to look at that time and see all the people who were fighting in various ways, the one thing I always respect is the fact that people were taking action, right? Mm-hmm. They were just sitting there, like we have some, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but these days folks were like, get on Twitter and, cuss out a white supremacist and think they've done something. Right. Like won an award for that. I'm like, you did nothing. You're talking to a bot for one. And I understand we're in a different time, but there's real work to be done, like outside in institutions. And that's kind of like what we have to focus on. So even the thing about bringing it back to Dr. King is there was actual work being done, right? So you did get the words and the speeches and amazing at it, but you got actual work.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking, Jimmy, when you said it about Twitter, like I just looked at Wired. I get Wired magazine, and what do I have on the cover of my last Wired magazine? The profile Black Twitter. So like Black Twitter is a thing, and it's actually respected to a large point. So, but I get your point though, right?
But I understand that. But even that's kind of foul too, because Black Twitter runs the gamut, right? And people also like to blame things on Black Twitter when it's convenient. Yeah, when it's convenient to do so. So you got to be careful with that too. And half of the people on Twitter, a third of the people on Twitter aren't even real.
That's documented.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like you got to be careful with that, man. But people really feel like, I put up a post and I did XYZ. Like, social media is social media. We still got to get out here and do some stuff.
All right, so they says we are seeing in the last few years how some of our people are talking up the dream of King by buying assets to create their own version of King's dream of a better America. KKK America or not. All right, so Adrian says no, it's a drawing board. You know what, Adrian? Thank you for keeping us on track.
That's right. I'm definitely gonna put one together with some Wawa hoagies on it.
No.
You basically going to have a sandwich tray. It's not a charcuterie board. That's a like ooh.
He taking it personally.
Everybody say, hold on. Everybody say hello to Jabbar.
Jabbar. What's going on, Jabbar?
Jabbar, what's good, family?
All right. The right action equals results. That's true. That is true. All right. So, Jimmy, I want to say this for the record. We was talking about Jimmy and how he's the Black Jesus of the hood. And today, like when you look at Jimmy's hair profile, just glimmering off the light, of like it's full of body, very, very illustrious. But somebody said it for me.
What's going on, fam? Listen, man, Ashley, what's going on? Like, you gotta stop hating, Kamari. It's juices and berries.
You know what? I am hating.
It's nothing but juices and berries.
I am hating. If you can see this now, right? I don't have any hair anymore. I used to have hair very similar to Jimmy's. So I'm jealous.
Two Team Baldy.
Yeah. But it's all good. So I wanted to show y'all something else as well, real quick. But again, I always find this whole conversation interesting because some people hate King. Some people think King is like the worst ever. What do y'all think about this?
Excuse me, brothers and sisters, please. If someone could just turn off.
King looked out on his people and saw they were in great need. So he did what all great leaders do. He told them the truth.
Will you ignorant niggas please shut the hell up?
Did he just say what I think he said?
Is this it? This is what I got all those ass whoopings for? I had a dream once. It was a dream that little black boys and little black girls would drink from the river of prosperity, freed from the thirst of oppression. But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggas? And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word. It's the ugliest word in the English language, but that's what I see now, niggas.
So for the record, I hate the N-word. It's the vestige left over from slavery, but it's a part of us. And I don't want to show the whole clip because I don't want to get any fair use or any trademark issues we might have to get Courtney involved in and waste her time on. But do y'all think that clip has any relevance, any fact to it?
That just is amazingly relevant. Aaron McGruder is probably the absolutely, he's the genius of art. That's my favorite show. Mm-hmm. And then Chappelle Show is second. Mm-hmm. But
Kamari sound like a little pushback coming from that.
Hey, I mean, listen.
No pushback.
Y'all can push back on all y'all want. Y'all can't tell me what to like. I love y'all ladies, but y'all can't tell me what to like.
That's right.
I know, but the way he said, "Whoa," I was trying to hear his thoughts on that though. Like you had some thoughts.
I'm gonna tell you my thought. Chappelle Show genius the first 2 seasons, right? Boondocks absolutely genius. I actually had a hard time watching Boondocks because they use the N-word so much. But then I saw how Aaron McGruder was using it. He was using it very strategically. But to get to Jimmy's question about Corey's statement, both of those shows got cut off. They were both short-lived. They definitely could have went a lot longer, and they both were genius. So that was what the woe was for.
I mean, Honorable Dick Gregory
is one of the most, and Aaron, he's an absolute genius.
Listen, man, Dick Gregory teaches us that the N-word has power in it, and you should use it to make 6S feel the way they feel when you do. Hey, listen, that's what Dick Gregory says.
And he's an absolute great too. He's one of the geniuses of our time that doesn't get enough credit.
Baba Dick is definitely a great, definitely genius. I don't agree with him with that sentiment, but
I mean, none of us agree on everything.
Right. And I don't have any right to criticize any of those people either. So I won't. So
could you imagine what it would be like if Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or any of these other civil rights leaders came back today and saw where and what has been done or not completed since they left?
That's a great question, Tracy.
The state of Black America today, like, can you imagine?
Folks will get on social media and roast them just like everybody else.
Yeah, they gonna get cooked.
That part, cooked, roasted.
I don't think King would take a Cosby approach to it though. So they would roast him, but it wouldn't be the same way that Cosby went about it though. So I think he would probably get more traction.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Technology make it all different because people can get behind keyboards and say whatever the hell they want.
And now, right? People like to expose your entire life, right? So what comes with that is all the
yeah, man. Like you gotta be real careful because they will put your life. They will dox your life out here.
Oh,
yes,
I've been there.
And and talk about some of your shortcomings, or love of 6F women. Like they would let all that go.
Yeah, you wouldn't get no air to come up and breathe. They 15 seconds in, they be done.
But I think I think that's a really good point generally and overall. I think we have social media has stopped allowing people to be people. I mean, I don't know anybody who's perfect. And for some reason, everyone expects you, if you do one good thing, they expect you to be perfect in every aspect of your life. And it's like, that's just impossible. Like, no one's Mother Teresa running around these streets. They're just not. Everybody has a past. Everybody has something that's not, like palatable to everyone. And it may be palatable to some and not palatable to others. So I just don't get how we expect everybody to be lily white and crystal clean all the time.
I take the power away from people. I just tell people, like, look, my life is imperfect. I do a lot of crazy. I have done and will continue to do a lot of crazy shit because I'm not looking for approval. So mind your business.
But let's go back to Tracy's question. Tracy, what do you think King would be very disappointed in that we haven't carried through on?
Probably some of the same issues that they were fighting still exist. Like what have we actually advanced?
The ability to work for white folks.
Well, listen, I mean,
black-owned businesses now than we did then.
The unemployment rate is about the same as it was during the March on Washington as it is now. It was double then. It's about double now, sometimes even more. So we know just using that metric, it's not as good. Not Tracy. Courtney just mentioned there's less black-owned businesses now than there were then because we had the quote-unquote, air quotes, right, opportunity of desegregation that gave us the ability to spend our money with other folks.
We talked about the insurance company, what, half an hour ago?
Yeah, I don't want to have that conversation though. But A.G. Gaston talked about it a lot. He talked about how a lot of people that were going to his hotel pre-desegregation stopped going to his hotel and went to other places post desegregation. So
we can even look at the way HBCUs have fared, and during that same time. Is that, and here's the funnier thing though, even though HBCUs their enrollment has gone down because people had the opportunity to go to PWIs or predominantly white institutions, the numbers of professionals in terms of percentages, most of the black professionals still come from HBCUs.
So what does that tell us though?
It tells us that when black people give other black people's opportunities, that's what happens. That's what it tells us because they're coming from these black schools and they create a network where they can give each other opportunities. That's exactly what that says. And so it tells you to stay, if you take your ass to somewhere and put yourself where you can get in a network of other people that will provide opportunities for you, that's what happens.
I agree
with that. Malcolm Gladwell. Go ahead, Tracy. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, I'm in a different headspace right now for HBCU just because school is back in session. They're enrolling people and they are bringing the kids onto campuses. And there are so many horror stories right now because these universities are not prepared for the influx that they received post-COVID or post-shutdown for 2020 of all the people that wanted to be enrolled in HBCUs. And it is bad, y'all. Like, it is really, really putting a stain on, do you want to bring your kids here? And this is why we go to PWIs.
Well, I only seen that in Atlanta. Was it more than the schools in Atlanta, Tracy?
Yes. It was a lot of schools. Clark Atlanta definitely had.
I was trying not to say any names.
That's because they're at a disadvantage to begin with because of resources. Right. They don't have resources to begin with.
But that's my point: is that telling people just go to HBCUs because you can build this network and build this relationship is only half of the conversation. The HBCUs have to have the resources and the other dynamics to be able to service all of the influx of people who would potentially want to go, or who those in 2021 are now there. And they can't put them in the dorms. They can't service them on campus. None of them were prepared. Out of COVID, a lot of them did not even get any extra resources from the government. It's a nightmare right now, because all the stuff that we said that we wanted to do to support HBCUs, they can't handle it right now.
Yeah, but that's a nuanced conversation, though. And I mean, Jimmy kind of talked about it. There are literally HBCUs in our great state of Pennsylvania that get a lot of unfair treatment.
They get choked out by the PA state government.
Right. And that unfair treatment makes them look worse than what they actually have the ability to do. And so,
listen,
it's hard. It's really hard.
And I'm not
Cheney's endowment is $1.4 million. Yo, that's their total endowment.
What?
$1.4 million is their total endowment.
What
they supposed to do with that?
With an M?
Yeah, with an M.
Not a B.
Now, Jimmy, you brought it up.
They'll tell me tomorrow and reach more than that. Huh?
Well, hold on, y'all. Jimmy, you brought it up. Do us a favor. Just run down why that's important.
Well, because that's that's what they need to operate their facilities in order to make that money grow, to offer certain courses, certain it's just the resources they use to operate their school, right? And when you look at something like Harvard, theirs is in the B, and I forgot it's something like
35 billion.
It's actually in the 40s now. It's like 40 something billion, and they have like a fund manager, like who's one of the greatest fund managers who actually runs their fund. Yeah. But having those resources gives them the ability to do all kinds of things and try things with their school, to grow their school, to just support their students. Cheney has 1.4 million with an M, that is. What are they supposed to do with that? I mean, so they don't have the resources to begin with. It's very problematic. Malcolm Gladwell did a show on this on his podcast. He has 2 episodes. It's actually about the rating system, how schools are rated. You know, that national rating system they do every year,
right?
And it's about how flawed that is, and why certain schools, small schools, and black schools will never rank well. And one of the reasons is because they look at endowments. But an endowment doesn't tell you how good a school does at educating people, specifically when you talk about the kind of students that HBCUs are enrolling. They're giving people opportunity that other schools won't. And they're still, to Courtney's point, he actually talks about it in this 2-part series about how specifically with science, more science graduates come from HBCUs than any school, and that includes all of the Ivies. So they're doing that at a higher rate. Yeah. So it's just a lot of that 2-part series is pretty good. I'll send it to you guys, but it was interesting to see just how they come up with these rankings, and it's really all BS. It's all BS. Right. It's one of those who you know type things, and there it is. We'll put it there. $40.9 billion.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought up Cheney, because Cheney is local to Pennsylvania, and it's close and near and dear to my heart, because we definitely have a relationship that is not completely fully public knowledge on what we're doing just yet, but Mosaic Development Partners is in touch with trying to revitalize Cheney's endowment and also their community to make sure that those students can compete.
Nice.
I know there's people that live on my block that got a net worth bigger than their endowment, and that's crazy.
Kamari got more money than that right now. Like he can just fund Cheney if he wanted to. Like, that's crazy.
But I will be able to soon.
That's what it takes.
No, you're right.
To be able to have resources, communities, graduates, even if they're not graduates, just communities of professionals, business people, financiers, hedge funds, whatever, to be able to think their relationship, their money, and their resources into these HBCUs to be able to help them, because they're not going to be able to compete and do things just with interest and enrollment.
Yep, this is true.
So Tracy, you talked about what King would be disappointed in. Dr. King was a Morehouse man, right? So would he be disappointed in the level of contribution and support that the Black community is giving to HBCUs?
Yes, I think overall, Morehouse is a absolute force to be reckoned with. They have a strong alumni and they have people who do support them as well. So I don't know if he would be as sad about Morehouse in particular, because they do keep their legacy and uphold it just like Spelman. But I will say, as a cross the board HBCU community, there isn't enough Black professionals and elite who do more to support them to make sure that they're in the forefront.
Well, I think support comes from so many different ways. I think support, I noticed that a lot of people get very excited about life insurance. And one of the things you can do with life insurance is you can give it to your alma mater or give it to a HBCU that's not your alma mater. And you can have your own endowment there. And there's a lot of different things that can be done. We can do CRUTs, which are charitable remainder unit trusts. There's lots of things that can be done, but I do want people to know that there's so many things that can be done to really continue the legacy of these schools and understand exactly that it's part of money. It's also resources, and not only is it money and resources, but it's also leveraging politicians. Because at the end of the day, unless it's a private institution, politicians have a lot to do with it.
Right. But I also think that everything that you just explained, most people don't know. Most people don't know what a CRUTS is. Most people don't know that they can leverage life insurance. Most people don't know that.
Gladwell talks about that in the series, and one of the things he talks about is how many people use their life insurance policies to give to Harvard. And he said it's actually ridiculous. He said if you want to make the world a better place, Harvard already has $40 billion. Yep. So what are you doing leaving another $1 billion to Harvard?
I just want to make something really, really clear. Courtney just brought up taxes, and y'all don't even realize it. But I'm just saying.
As a point.
I'm just saying.
Just saying.
I see I'm going to have to advocate for myself here, folks. I'm always.
It was actually, I was talking about a trust, honestly. Now, is there tax implications? Absolutely. Was it included in my master's of taxation? Absolutely.
We all know what you are, Courtney. We clear on that.
What did you say?
We all know you are a tax attorney. We got that. Yeah. My fight is that y'all mislabel me all the time.
No.
I saw it a minute ago. Courtney definitely talks about taxes more than I do. She just does it more eloquently. That's all.
It's not true.
Her language is better. No, disagree. All right. So we got a lot of comments. The comments just jumped on me. I don't know how it got like this. There's a comment about Black Twitter and Dwight. I totally missed the context of that, but we'll keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's far down. You gotta go all the way back to
No, well, we got here. This is when they were talking about Jimmy's Black Jesus hair.
Yeah, but that comment you just showed was like 20 minutes after that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
What she was saying is Black Twitter still runs on a white platform, is what she's saying.
On Dwight's platform.
Yes, it's Dwight.
Yeah.
Dwight.
Right, yeah, yes, sir.
Got you. All right, Jose says, Jimmy, you will be committing a mortal sin if you put a hoagie on a John board.
Well, no, if it's a John board, it's a John board, but it's not a charcuterie board.
If it's a John board, it needs a Wawa hoagie, it needs a tasty cake. Like, we talking about a John
Jimmy,
board.
I gotta check you on this. Like, how are we gonna get a Wawa hoagie on a John board? We need a real Philly hoagie, though.
You cut it up.
Wawa represents
Philly hoagies. But all right, I digress. All right, Monica says,
"Come on,
look there, telling all your business, though."
That's right. Protect your king. Protect your king. All right, Latoya says, one of my favorite episodes of the Boondocks. Facts. Listen, when Pops had his girlfriend moving, that was one of my favorites, but we can't talk about that. This is a PG
all
show.
My favorites.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Typhoon. I think this every day in Chicago. All right, the White says, great clip of King. Watson Aaron McGluder talk about how King wouldn't be relevant today because he wouldn't be able to connect with this generation.
I disagree with that. I don't think his irrelevance. I don't think his irrelevance would come from not being able to connect. I think he would connect, and then he would get doxxed for parts of his life that people didn't agree with, and then he'd be Umar.
But
I don't even think he would connect.
Coretta, to your point, Corey, Coretta like fervently rejected all those accusations by COINTELPRO.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the perception of truth is truth in 2021.
Well, it's always been.
Listen, I don't even think he would. I think Umar actually connects more because of the fact that he's willing to clown himself. Like Dr. King was a serious dude, and I just don't think he already stopped connecting with the youth before he was even gone. You remember that time he was on that march? I think it was with who was it? Kwame Ture. They already wasn't messing with him. They're like, dude, you from back then, FOH. They was already telling the FOH he was old and antiquated, and that was back then. So in 2021, I know how crazy is that? In 2021, like these folks out here crazy, man.
So Monica says if they came back, social media would be used to discredit them.
Yeah. Exactly. They'd be like, yo, Dr. King about to go live.
DeBar says they would go to Mars and start over. They'd all be beyond pissed.
Correct. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've actually gone backwards. I mean, a lot of the things that we had that I think they expected us to build on, we don't have anymore. Like we really expect, like they at least expect you to do a little bit better than they did. And really from all, and I think he would be very sad because his commentary that he felt that he led us into a burning building. The building is on fire. We are actually burning and suffocating. So I think those things would have been just disheartening to him and be very sad.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, Don says, or maybe they would look at the top 30% of our community and be pleased versus looking at the bottom 10%.
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't think so.
Who is that top 30%?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think so because King always talked about the general, the broad.
Correct.
It wasn't stratified into.
And he cared the most about the poor, and he was very clear about that. And our poverty numbers
is a big number too.
Yeah, astronomical. Like our poverty numbers. And he said in his speech, he said the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. That's today.
Yeah,
I mean our top 30. It's a lot of undesirables in our top 30%.
A lot. Now this question,
that's a great
ask is very, very great question. Would MLK be disappointed in Obama?
Absolutely. After we did in Yemen and Libya,
he would be. I think in a lot of ways he would be.
To be honest, my major disappointment is what he did in Libya. So I'm pretty sure he'd be disappointed in that also.
But I also feel like I think with Dr. King, based on where he was around his death, I think he would have been very disappointed with the way that the president of the United States, who had the opportunity to do a couple of things, did not. Now, I think, he could have done a lot more by executive order because we all know that the House and the Senate in his second term were not down to get down. Mm-hmm. You want to push back? Let's go. Come on.
A little bit, because he was doing a lot of things by executive order, and he saw how it could be used by someone else, and then he pulled back some.
Well, his house was fair.
He pulled back some because he wasn't getting anything done, which is why he started using the executive orders.
Correct.
Then he was like, "Yo, whoa, let me pull back a little bit here because I don't want some weirdo and then the weirdo came right after him.
And guess what happened?
So he pulled back. So to be honest, he was thinking about people when he did pull back with the executive order. So I'm not going to give him hell about that because he was thinking about the welfare of everyone when he did it.
And I also think Obama was trying to to live up to his campaign promise, and he was trying to unite left and right.
I believe that too, but I think that that's a great point because that's something that we talked about earlier with Dr. King. Like when you're trying to be moral and ethical, you can't be moral and ethical with an enemy that's not moral and ethical. Like it doesn't matter. Who are you appealing to? But what I'm talking about is some of the things he did internationally. I think that Dr. King will disagree on that. When you talk about Libya and you talk about Yemen, man. Oh my God.
Two beautiful places.
Definitely would not.
Absolutely beautiful places. These were two of the most beautiful places in the world. And destroyed them, turned them into open air slave trade. And like, come on, dog.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I mean, I think there were some real missteps, and I do agree that he was a constitutional scholar, so he would pull back from the executive orders. But I feel like there was more that could and should have been done.
Oh, for sure.
But again, I mean, nobody's perfect. And I think we look back on what was being done. We look back on it and saying, well, he could have done more. And then we're also like, even with the stuff he did do, we had old boy who just made a mess for 4 years after it.
And the thing, the thing I always wonder about is everybody says he could have done more. Of course he could have.
My thing is everything he did by executive order
done more because we never were able to put together a real effective agenda. And so when you're competing with everybody else's interest, it's really hard to just single out those of your folks who are not communicating it clearly.
Well, we couldn't even keep the House and the Senate, on his side.
I'm talking about black. I'm just talking about black.
Well, right.
The House and the Senate is a whole other. That's a whole other issue.
But you know what, Kamar? I think you're right, but I also think that's also like a crutch too, because I think as long as we say that, we continue to say that, we'll never get any one thing done. Like we don't have a concrete plan. Like a lot of other people don't have concrete plans put together either, but they still get stuff done and they want to get done. A lot of other communities. But I also keep this in mind, right? What I also keep in mind is none of us can really talk about what he was actually facing. So I think it's very nuanced, right? So I have my criticisms, but have you ever worked at a job, right? And you have somebody above you and you're like, why don't they do this, that, and the third? And then eventually you get to that position and then you say,
oh.
We say, okay. I always think about that, right? I always think about that. So, so you can have your criticisms, but it's nuanced. It's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so Jose says, Dr. Claude Anderson said, once we got emancipated, we have not seen a growth of black wealth, paraphrase, so that the state of blacks, we are generally in the same spot as we were back then with a bunch of tokenized growth. I think he actually said we have less ownership, less wealth than we had in Reconstruction, which is crazy.
I like that phrase, tokenized growth, because that's exactly what it is.
I like it. I do like it.
Individual pockets of growth.
Mm-hmm. And we use those as the norm. Like I like the way they're like, well, look at so and so, and it's like, well, no, that's an outlier. Look at such and such, that's an outlier.
Look at the other 3 million
people. Bootstraps.
Right. Now, Tracy, you were about to say something, and I think I cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, I don't remember now.
Okay, sorry. All right, lawsuit. Yeah, that would definitely. Yeah.
Yes, Adrian, it was. Absolutely.
And that's right in downtown Atlanta.
Yep. All right, Monica says there are no HBCUs with $1 billion endowment. Harvard is $40 billion. Howard has the biggest HBCUs at $700 million. Now, I counted years ago the top 20 HBCU endowments, and I don't think it was more than $2 or $3 billion. That was the top 20.
The total HBCUs in total got like $2 billion.
Total.
Right. Okay.
All together.
Yeah. It's 100 and some odd HBCUs. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably like a little over $2 billion.
The top 20. Your FAMUs, your Howards, your your FAMUs, your Morehouse Spelmans, a few others, and they didn't have more than that, and that's crazy. I mean, and when you think about it, right, the black community spends about 1.2 to 2.1 trillion a year. You would think we would be able to shave some of that off to direct more of our black-owned businesses and more of our HBCU endowments.
Monica made a point later on, and I know you're going to get to it, about HBCU dollars.
All right.
Ooh.
That's a lot of zeros. I feel like the PWI versus HBCU debate is like the Booker T versus W. Du Bois debate. It's interesting, right? There will always be folks who fall on either side and will die with the argument unchanged.
I disagree. Because I think we're very clear about that. I mean, it's very clear from history. History shows us that that's actually not the case.
Right.
It's not that type of, because I will say specifically, my grandfather went to North Carolina. I forgot what it was, A&T, but it wasn't that at the time he went there. So I don't remember the proper term. I don't know. But my father, thinking that and I'm not faulting my father. My father's an amazing person. Y'all can tell because, well. So, but I say that to say is that, they all of that time thought the white man's ice was colder. So, again, my father went to Central. He went to the best high school in the city of Philadelphia. Corey and Jimmy don't start today.
That is true.
I do this today. I don't even think ENS even existed. Tracy, move back.
But we're being thrown. Whoa.
We're on the board now.
But in 1970, when he graduated, sis?
Okay.
No. Anyway, best high school in the city of Philadelphia. He went there.
True.
And at no point did he ever have any of those, and he never talked about an HBCU as an option.
Right.
And they were certainly options. So my point is that, again, once we saw that we had the opportunity to go with them, then we went with them. Right. And again, it's not a Booker T versus WEB issue. It's not that at all.
Right.
I think it is, though. I get the White's point. I see his angle.
So, the only reason I didn't go to the HBCU, I was supposed to go to Clark, right? They gave me I got a full ride to go to Clark, right? I couldn't play ball. They teams was ass. They didn't have no facilities, none of that. I was a ball player that couldn't go play ball. I was like, I can't. I got full scholarship to go to West Virginia. I got a full scholarship to go to Westchester. I got a full scholarship to go to Clark Atlanta. And I couldn't even look at the Clark Atlanta one because their facilities were so ass. I couldn't play ball.
Well, let's take a step back, though, real quick, and let's get back to the White's statement, right? I know people who will not, black folks, who will not even entertain an HBCU. And to his point, he said they'll argue about it. Nothing's going to change because everybody's so entrenched. So I get that. I totally get his point.
So I think my concern with what I was saying earlier with this conversation is,
and Tracy, I don't think he was saying that to you, by the way.
No. I know.
Okay.
I know. But I'm speaking from the conversation with the argument. HBCUs cannot compete with PWIs. They can't compete with their resources. They can't compete with their endowments. They can't compete, and they up until recently they couldn't compete in interest. Now they have the interest and they can't service the clientele.
But that's because all the people of our parents' generation, the baby boomers, found their way somewhere else and did not see the value there. And Correct. They didn't put their money there. I mean, Corey said, again, I'm sorry, what?
No, I was thinking about what Corey said about mission first. What's the mission, though? If we know these HBCUs are turning out black professionals left and right, we would want to support them regardless if that's our alumni, regardless if we are PWI, pro PWI versus HBCU. You would think as a community there will be a push there.
Well, no. Let's clarify. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated has made a push for HBCU. So I want to be very clear about
this. Is not about sororities versus.
Well, no. That's not what I was saying. You said as a community. We are the first African American sorority, and we have made a push about HBCUs. That's the point I was making. So, no, as community, we are starting to see the need and actually garnering.
Are you saying one faction of the D9 doing that represents the whole community?
No, you said the community. We're part of the community.
We recognize.
I'm talking about the entire Black community.
What? You're not going to get the entire Black community to do anything. Come on, now stop it.
But we were going back, y'all see that, right? Y'all see that fervor, right? Y'all saw that, right? But if we go back to
a lot of this.
Well, hold on. If we're going back to what Corey said, right, about being mission focused, if the community, Black folks in general, see that we are in a bad state, we need to support the institutions that support us, not just college folks, not just those who have the opportunity to go to PWI, but everybody. That's all I was saying.
And I'm saying I agree with you. I just think that there needs to be a rolled out plan or a rubric explaining what support looks like. It's not just entrance and enrollment. There has to be another layer of resources. Oh, TikTok, you're showing everybody that the dorms are completely in disarray. Nothing was built. There's no place for them to stay. Hey, maybe you should call some of your alumni who might be in real estate development. Maybe you should call some of your alumni who own hotels. Maybe you should start into these conversations of people putting forth their actual physical resources, whether they be relationships or financial, in the play today.
So you're saying you want to see us be a community through and through.
All right, so there's a couple things here, right? HBCUs, the marketing of HBCUs is piss poor,
correct?
Right? Because a lot of times, like when you talk about Harvard has a brand. I know a lot of people that graduated from Harvard just because of the greatest high school that I went to. A lot of my classmates went to Harvard. And to be honest with you, a lot of them even aren't even that bright. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, there's no difference other than how that school is marketed, because the way it's marketed, it really isn't about the education. It's about the network that they build by going to a school like that. And HBCUs have that same network, but the marketing is just piss poor. And I also personally feel like some of the HBCUs need to merge. And that's been a problem with HBCUs in the past. And a lot of the reason why it's been an issue in the past is because, I mean, this gets real deep. You talk about a caste system, right? So a lot of us fall in love with titles, and a lot of us don't know how to work together because we so caught up in wanting to be the president of this or the vice president of that, instead of doing what's best for the overall community and working together. We love titles, and that's a problem, right? The Honorable Earl Graves once said that the reason why a lot of Black businesses go out of business is because they refuse to merge. Right? Yep. They'll get to a certain point and won't merge with another Black business. And it's for the same reason. They get caught up in titles. So Tracy has an excellent point about us just working together overall, because you can get a quality education at a lot of these schools and it'll be no different than you going to Harvard. But to Courtney's point now, the generation before kind of failed us. They definitely failed us. If you would have asked someone from my mother or father's generation about, like, you know, going to a HBCU versus going to a Princeton or Yale, they would have been like, no, you're not going to, you're not going there. Right, you're going here, right? And because to them, the white man's ice was colder, and we have to acknowledge that and move past that, right? And some of us might even have to get in there and give our part outside of money, even if it pertains to teaching or something. But we have to work together one way or another.
Agreed.
Listen, shout out to Master P's son. Yeah. Shout out to Deion Sanders. I mean, those are other great ways of showing support.
And that was my next point, Kamari, that's the reason why the push for athletics is what it is, because we have to understand the value of our labor, right? The Honorable Dr. Claude Anderson says, like, it's a thing of Black labor and white wealth. Black labor in this country too much leads to white wealth. So our athletics are leading to white wealth because they're going to these schools and they're creating wealth for these schools with something that we're just inherently able to do better than everybody else. That's why it's a push for these athletes to go to HBCUs, because over time, might not happen right away, but over time, that's when you get the facilities, right? That's when you're able to bring in better teachers. So it's a collective effort. No one person or no one school can do anything.
Absolutely. And I think even with Nicole Hannah-Jones, who had the issue at UNC, I mean, now Howard offered her a position, but even still is that she could have even stayed. If we had the network that we need, she could even stayed in the same area where she was, because there's a lot of HBCUs down there. So I think, again, is that, when we put ourselves in position, and it is a long-term opportunity, it's a long-term move. And I think sometimes in the microwave society that we live in, we expect everything to be fast, quick, and in a hurry. We cannot build dorms overnight. We can have some solutions, some short-term solutions, but we ultimately don't have the facilities. And I think once we put the money in and we make it a possibility for facilities to be brought, then that's kind of when you bring in more people. But I think it's also, even with the change in the NCAA rules, I think it's super important that, Black athletes go to HBCUs by far. And, and I think it's really, and I also feel like it's interesting to watch the shakeup in college football generally. And I really I can't wait to see how HBCUs fit in here, because I think this is a real opportunity. I think this is starting to be a perfect storm. And I'm not a football fan or anything, but I've been watching the background in terms of the business decisions.
Right.
And then allowing now endorsements to the actual athletes to be able to be now a part of the conversation too. Yeah.
Well, so Adrian says some HBCUs get hella money, like Howard, Spelman, and Morehouse. They're like the Ivy League of HBCUs. Yeah,
right. They still don't touch. Like, they are the Ivy League of the HBCUs, but they still don't touch even like Johnny Come Lately University around the corner.
They don't,
in terms of,
but their alumni and their endorsement and their understanding of community is what makes them the Ivy League of
their endowment is like Harvard's water budget.
Right. Exactly. And that's my point. It's like their endowments just don't, they're sizable, but they're still not for the length of the length and the prestige of the institution that they are. Their endowments should be significantly larger.
I think Monica's comment speaks to that. That's a lot of problem. I don't think HBCUs do a good enough job explaining to students how important it is to give back financially after they graduate. That's real. They don't.
That's an absolute fact.
When you're in these Ivy League schools, University of Penn, Harvard, they literally talk to you in blue in the face in your senior year, like, hey, are you joining this alumni conversation? Here is the envelope. We're also going to create little clubs and little political PACs and all kinds of things.
Do you want a brick? They start you early too. Would you like a brick on the walk with your name on it?
My high school probably has a bigger endowment than 90% of the HBCUs.
I was actually going to bring it up for you.
But let's talk about your high school real quick, though. I'm not trying to shoot shots, but your high school predominantly was white men.
It started off.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I want to talk about that though, because it's another point outside of the endowment, right? The day we started Central, the very first day, I'm talking about day one, as we were freshmen, they talked to us about the importance of the school, about the importance of saying that you're a Central alumni, about the importance of coming back, about the importance of giving back. And that was drilled into us from day one until the day we left, right? I went to a HBCU. That's never talked about, right? So it's like, I've seen both. Right, which is why when you talk to people that go to Central, it's almost like subconsciously, like, people say, "Man, y'all part of a cult," but it is almost like that because this is taught to you from the day you walk through the doors. The first order that you
take care of each other, because each one of y'all
is central. The importance of being a central person, that's like a thing, and this is why everybody has their class number that they yell out, because this is what you're taught. You're taught to do that, and that's not kind of instilled in you when you go. At least my experience. I shouldn't say everybody's experience, but in my experience, that wasn't it at HBCU.
Yeah, they have.
All right, Adrian says, when I was looking for colleges in high school, I had my heart set on Howard or Spelman. My clear guidance counselor said that they had subpar schools. They wouldn't serve me well. I knew different. My parents did not. Yep.
That was a lot of conversations, especially in the 90s.
It's still a big conversation now.
I will say this. When I was looking for colleges in 98 that could compete, that I could spend my money at, that could allow me to get a job that would be able to not only propel me in a space of growth, but also be able to actually pay back any charges I incurred for the purposes of this degree. Thank God I didn't have any, but just any of it that I needed to. HBCUs did not have a lot of options that fared with PWIs. And that was 98.
Gotcha. All right. Monica says the new NCAA rules will make it harder for HBCUs because they don't have the funds to draw the athletes away from the bigger D1 PWIs. But I do think the new NCAA rules with the making money off of their likeness and everything else,
that's going to help.
That's going to help because now you don't need them.
Right.
And also, you know, as we get more of the Master P's.
We'll know about that though. Listen,
I think
the NIL program. I think it's
going to help give more cachet to HBCUs. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I mean, I know my computer's acting crazy, but I don't know about that because like the bigger schools right now are able to still bring in more cash because of this NIL program. An example of that is like what was it, Arkansas or one of those schools? They have so much money because of their booster. They have infrastructure already set up. So now their boosters were already cheating the system, but now they're able to legally do it.
Right.
So they have athletes coming down there that are getting like deals with car dealerships and this commercial building over here and this and the third. They're throwing money around to these athletes now. So we're still at a disadvantage when it comes to that.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I hope that wasn't the message I was trying to get across.
Well, that was
I was saying that there's another opportunity now.
But no, I was saying that, you know, as these younger students have the ability to build their own brand,
they don't need those things as much because they can get paid from the bigger corporations, the Googles, those places, and you don't need those. It'll take some of the power away from those local things that make those colleges bigger. So
especially for those who don't want to go to Bumblefuck, Iowa, or wherever.
That was their only draw.
To grow their brand. They can go to an HBCU somewhere warm in the South and still grow their brand.
And they get all of the fun of HBCU.
But if I grow my brand and Nike is looking for me and I at North Carolina A&T, guess who also benefits from
North Carolina A&T.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So I think
those big corporations don't want you at HBCUs because those big corporations are not controlled by the folks that come from HBCUs. Those big corporations are writing checks for you to go to UCLA, for you to go to North Carolina. They're not writing the same check. So if you say I want to build my brand and I want to go to say Howard versus I want to play ball and I want to go to UNC, you're going to get a bigger check to go to UNC. Therefore, you're going to go to UNC.
I
mean, it's already happening. It's not even speculation. It's already happening.
But see, this is where I feel like the community, the conversations, the guidance, and the genius in this space that they have the opportunity to handle it. If the next Kobe Bryant is well advised to understand what it means from an HBCU perspective versus a UCLA, and he does force the conversation to happen at a North Carolina team.
But that's what these athletes are doing now, right? Because
that's what's going to happen.
The athletes, the Shaq, the Master P, you know what I mean? What's the young boy, Mikey, whatever his name is, the #1 basketball recruit going to HBCU. So what's happening is the young boys are seeing it and they're taking it upon themselves to do it, to try to bring that exposure to these colleges. They're taking it upon themselves. They like, look, we don't need nobody to tell us. We want to take it upon ourselves to do it.
But that's what's going to have to happen, because my point is the new rules do not benefit HBCUs or small schools. It kills them. The new rules work against them.
Well, I feel like it doesn't. I think if this was 10 years ago, I would completely agree with you. But I think as these students and these high school students have been able to really create and cultivate themselves on social media to put themselves in a better spot, because a lot of times is that a lot of them would want to go to HBCU for the whole experience. And they're just like, well, this school is giving me something else that they can't. Now they're like, well, I can get my endorsement from Nike. I can get my endorsement for wherever, and I can go wherever I want. And that changes the game, and it's not a change.
But Nike's not giving anybody money that goes to HBCU. They want the athlete to play in front of a bigger audience. The MEAC doesn't even have a TV deal, right? So I'm not going to give you. I'm not going to give you.
Go back and forth with that all night. But let's get to the rest of these comments. So Willis says, I personally wrote to Coach Robinson because I was in love with playing at Grambling. Unfortunately, they told me that at the last minute they couldn't fly me into campus for an official visit. Not enough money in their budget. I really think if I had taken the visit, I would have gone there over Temple. Shout out to Grambling, but I am a TU graduate.
I was about to say, what year was that? Because I'm sure that's so.
Grambling was the creme de la creme of black college football at that time, though, and they were producing pro players, and so
but they still had shoestring budgets, though.
Yeah, they still had shoestring budgets, which is and that's 80s because he played in the 80s.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay.
All right, so Latoya says, yes, they talked to us about the history and giving back from day one at Central, and I get a quarterly envelope from my PWI.
So interesting.
I will say this:
Girls High doesn't do this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
But I think that's an interesting thing is that we're literally up the street, and that was part of the fact that Central had an endowment was a part of the reason why Central actually had to be co-ed.
All right. Willis says the new NCAA kill the smaller schools. HBCUs won't fare well. So Willis agrees with Jimmy.
When we're talking about this, I'm not looking at it from a standpoint of the rule being going to this school, we giving this amount of money to this school. That's the conversation. I'm saying playing around with the free will of the athlete to say, if you want me to be wearing your sneaker, I am going here. So you now have to do what I need to be functional enough in my D1 status to be functional here, and use your resources and your dollars to make here good enough that I can play on the platform. I think they can force that conversation using that.
They can force it, period. Because the athletes are what draws the money.
Right.
Yeah, but it takes a mass exodus. Like when the young man just went to Howard, they didn't care. They said, go ahead over there. We got 15 other guys that are going to PWIs. They're going to get everything. They let him go over there. It didn't fare too well. So it's going to take a mass movement of that to happen. But the rules are set up. The rules actually prohibit it from happening.
The youth move a little different than us in the previous generation. So we'll see.
We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, Latoya says
door conversation in the Sunny Hill League and tell them what's really good. But I digress.
All right, so Latoya says it will as long as they have the right management. That's the biggest point that makes the NCAA rule scary. The Sharks are in the water.
I think we really do need to get more managers that look like us and that have our best interests in mind, because there is no lies to be told about Sharks being in the waters and really taking advantage of these new rules for their personal benefit. And again, it's going to be it could potentially be another situation with black labor and white wealth.
Yeah.
All right, Monica says, time will tell, but I think brand washing is strong.
That was another great book, by the way.
And I think schools like Alabama, USC have created a brand that will be tough to compete with, and the brand is backed by dollars. That's a fact.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody is disagreeing on either side, right? It's just one of those things. We got to see what happens. Well, Terry says, I agree, Tracy. The culture has to correct for some of that. Put those institutions on blast for their bias. Facts. All right. Last comment. Last call for the night. Monica says, yes, Tracy, I like to see LeBron James Jr. go to a HBCU. Listen, it's possible.
Could you imagine kind of backing that young man plus his father and his family, all of them riding for him, pushing for him in that school, showing up to games? It now becomes a full-fledged media frenzy. Any brand would be stupid to not back him because he went to HBCU. And that conversation could actually help start the discussion on the mass exodus.
Now, yeah, his situation is different.
Yeah, but to Tracy's point, I think it adds more gas on the fire to a little.
Yeah, because Shaq just did the same thing. He took his son out of UCLA and put him in the HBCU.
Right.
So we're gonna see.
LeBron's son is different because LeBron brings all kinds of weight with his son. That whole movement would be crazy. Now, with that being said, LeBron getting the rules changed so his son can go straight to the league and play with him, though. So
that's fair.
But let's not sleep on Shaq though, because I forget how many endorsement deals that man has. But yeah, he can bring some cash too. But with that said, listen, this was a great and very interesting conversation. As we embark and go into our week, let's think about what work we can do to make King's dream come to fruition. Not the dream of being with all the other 6 Fs, but the dream of us being the very best we can be in the current situation we're in. Any other closing comments y'all got, y'all?
Be good. Stay healthy.
Well, make sure you guys are going to see credit unions. I'll put a link in the bio. You guys should go to get credit unions. I've been talking about them all week. I'm involved with a campaign. It is super excited because all we're doing is informing people about credit unions. Very excited.
Okay.
Would you say, Jimmy?
I don't want to cuss out about Kamari.
And listen, not to disappoint, make sure y'all get y'all taxes done. Tax refunds are being held up, but make sure y'all get y'all stuff done. If you got an S Corp, September 15th is the deadline for your extension. Have a great night, everybody. Listen, love on y'all folks. Hug on y'all folks. Reach out to your peoples and give them a shout. Just let them know you love them. But we'll see y'all next week, 7 p.m. Blackwell Project next Sunday. Later.